Near the border of North Carolina and Virginia, a 3.27-mile, 17-turn road course awaits the first round of the 2019 Track Midwest Cup Series. Over 35 drivers have gathered to race the challenging and unforgiving Porsche 911 991 Cup car in a 4-race season, taking us everywhere from Sonoma, California to Montreal, Canada. For the next 4 weeks, myself, Kyle Heyer, and my friend and fellow iRacer Finian DeCuna from SimTV will join the series in their trek to find the best drivers at some of North America's best-known road courses. A 2-race format features 2 15-minute races separated by a field inversion of the top 10 after race 1. With 3 dozen cars on the grid in a narrow and technical circuit, the action tonight is bound to be phenomenal. And Finian, what better way to start a new series than to start with over 35 drivers registered to race this one here tonight?
Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers, and it looks like we have 40 guys in the server, so that's an impressive field count. And, I mean, these guys got a lot of space to work with. It's a pretty big track, like you said, over 3 miles long. But these guys don't have a lot of time to get spread out, as it is a 15-minute race, so it's going to be a sprint to the end. So if you're starting, and qualifying, I mean, is really important. We got 40 cars, and you only got 15 minutes to race. You have to make sure you're up towards the front if you want a chance to win.
And right now we're taking a look at Ken Hausiel driving the number 9 Porsche here tonight. Looks like it's a Brumos livery on that car here tonight. And Finian, one of the things about running new series is that we got some new names to talk about tonight. And obviously, a lot of those we're probably going to have some trouble pronouncing. Obviously, we haven't had the time to ask every single one of these guys the pronunciation. So if you notice that your name is being mispronounced, please contact us via Discord or at simtvbroadcasting@gmail.com or via the YouTube chat, and we'll try to correct ourselves as soon as we can so we don't get ourselves into a bad habit. But one of the drivers that we are familiar with is Ken Hausiel, and another one, Finian DJ Alessandrini, driving the number 31 car here tonight, and was already on top of the board in practice. He's going to be a tough one to beat.
Yeah, an interesting thing to note, too, is that the top 4 in practice were DJ Alessandrini, Ken Hausiel, Kyle Herbst, and Andrew Pelota, which are all familiar names at SimTV, as those guys raced in the VMAR series that would just actually finished a few weeks ago. So those guys we know are pretty fast, and they're all at the top of the charts in practice, but we have to see now if they'll be at the top of the charts in qualifying.
And obviously, we know DJ Alessandrini is talented here, Finian, but let's talk about Virginia International Raceway. Obviously, a 3 and a third mile road course in the northern part of Virginia, the southern part of Virginia. But Finian, this racetrack, 17 corners, and that's kind of a misleading statement because there's 6 different configurations of this racetrack, and I would argue that it has a lot more than 17 corners. I'm looking at a track map right now, not a different one than you're seeing on screen at the moment. Turn 1, Turn 2, Turn 3, Turn 4A, Turn 4B, Turn 5A, Turn 5B, Turn 6A, Turn 6B. How many corners? It's like got 45 corners in it here. It's a very narrow technical track, and this place requires a ton of precision.
Yeah, there's also notably, too, the track map, if you can look at it, this is a very long track. It's very thin and long track, so there's a big straightaway section there, and I was actually doing a few laps earlier, and these cars get very squirrely at high speeds, especially towards the end of that straightaway, and that's typically a passing zone, so it's going to be interesting to see if anyone's willing to risk sending a dive bomb move there, because they might end up spinning out.
Well, I am glad one thing is that our weather graphic shows that it has 20 corners, so already I think at least ATVO is in better agreement than Google is, as I'm looking at the official track map that shows 17 corners, and our software seems to think there's 20. I think there's a lot more than even that, but 65 degrees in the air, 69 on the track, Finian. That's very cool temperatures, and the track will be very quick tonight, and very fast lap times indeed. 1:47.0 by DJ Alessandrini in that 31 car that you're looking at right now.
Yeah, he's currently sitting on provisional pole. And Paul Darling, also a guy we haven't talked about yet. Another driver from the VMAR series. He's currently in second, just ahead of Kenneth Hausiel by about 3/300ths of a second.
All right, Finian, so 15 minutes around here, almost 2-minute lap time, so it's not going to be a ton of laps, and we know that qualifying tonight is going to be super important. If you're starting back in 36, the chances of you winning this race are going to be extremely low. The chances of you actually surviving the race will probably be low as well, Finian. This is not an easy track to get through, even with 20 cars, but with, looks like we had about 36 or 37, maybe even more than that will be starting this race, and obviously that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for guys starting towards the back. However, at the end of race 1, there will be a field inversion of the top 10 cars. So if you are 10th place, you'll be put up to the front row for the start of race number 2, and that'll commence about 15 to 20 minutes after the end of race number 1. And again, you see here's Eric Kutil in the number 82 Gathers Porsche 911 working his way around the course right now. And we'll take this moment to take a look at what makes a Porsche 911 such an amazing race car to race around Virginia International Raceway. The Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car is a single-seat GT-style race car based on the 991 Porsche platform. The Track Midwest Cup Series will race the 991 Cup car at Virginia International Raceway, Sebring International Raceway, Sonoma Raceway, and Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Canada. The engine is a 485 horsepower flat 6, producing peak horsepower at 7,500 RPM and a peak torque of 480 Nm at 6,250 RPM. The aerodynamic shell of the 991 Cup car includes a widened 911 GT3 wing made of carbon fiber, as well as a carbon fiber splitter and underbody paneling. The braking system is composed of a multi-piece steel brake disc, internally vented and slotted with a 380mm diameter. 6-piston monoblock racing brake calipers grip the front discs, while 4-piston calipers grip the rear. The gearbox is a 6-speed sequential type dogbox transmission, which connects to the engine with a triple-disc sintered metal racing clutch. Drivers will have to master this extremely challenging car without the help of anti-lock brakes, traction control, or stability control. It is a true driver's car that requires immense precision and talent to be fast. Alright, and there is a look at the Porsche 911 991 Cup cars. Bradley Adams in the number 12 got a familiar paint scheme on board here. A little blast from the past from 2005 in the Pixar Cars movie. And that's a nice looking Rusty's paint scheme on board Adams's 911 here tonight. And Finian, as we were talking about in the car overview there, the braking systems on these things, steel brakes on this, which is very unlike a lot of modern GT cars that have carbon ceramic brakes. And the problem with that becomes that your braking performance is not that good for a car of this size and this weight, and you're going to see a lot of guys locking up the front tires because, or actually maybe even the rears, even though there's a lot of weight over it. The problem is no anti-lock brakes on these cars, and quite small brakes considering it, everything said and done. So I think the braking here, especially at the end of the back straight, is going to be extremely tricky heading into the roller coaster section.
Yeah, I mean, you're going, again, I was talking about that section earlier, these cars are already very twitchy at a high speed. If you put too much input, you can find yourself spinning out on the straightaway. And then also you have to take into account, we were talking about braking, also the car is very squirrel under braking. These are hard cars to drive. So that entire section of track is going to be very difficult. We might see a few incidents on lap 1.
I would say that's a safe bet here. There's Ryan Christoph in the number 42 car going a little bit wide there and going for a little off-road excursion. And how about DJ Alessandrini out on provisional pole right now in front of Paul Darling. He's stayed there for most of the session and has not been able to best his best lap of a 147.007, so he's looking pretty safe right now. Alex Barroso in the number 39 car is out on track in 4th at the moment. Got an old-looking Apple paint scheme on there. That's a cool scheme as well. How about Ali Saleh here in the number 110? Bright orange and yellow checkerboard paint scheme on board that car. He'll start from 17th if everything stays how it is. We still have about 5 minutes left in qualifying. Here's Christopher Potter in the number 41 working his way through. But Vinian, I think one of the things we have to talk about in a Porsche is the rear engine layout, and this is so backwards from a traditional GT car where the engine's in the front and the drive wheels are in the back. In a Porsche, pretty much everything important is behind that rear axle, and that really changes the driving characteristics and gives these things a ton of grip exiting the corner. But they also can be unstable and kind of act like towing a trailer. When you get the car sideways, it'll like to swing the rear end around. So you have to keep that thing under control, but I think Porsche is brilliant in their engineering because this engineering methodology should not work at all, and it's just one of the most fantastic cars within the iRacing Motorsport Simulation service. You see the 41 locking up his right front tire there. The problem is that it does create some pretty unique driving characteristics, and one of those is that the front end is very, very light. Especially heading up over the curbs, through the snake, that could really throw your car off balance.
Yeah, and I think that's just due to the why this car is so twitchy in some places. That like you said, that front wing is very light, so this thing can be very nimble. You can really pitch this car around, but also that back end is heavy, so it can tend to swing out. And once you start swinging out these cars, once these cars get sideways, it's very hard to recover. So these guys got to be on edge as this race goes on, and it's only a short time that they got to be on edge. But again, if these guys make a mistake, the 40 cars potentially starting this race, so you can find yourself all the way in last.
See Jeremy Swenson now working his way through Oak Tree Corner, one of the tightest corners on the racetrack, and unfortunately that tree is no longer with us in the real world, but here in iRacing it's preserved forever digitally. And Jeremy Swenson in that number 10 car working his way onto the back straight. The fastest section of this racetrack here, Finney. Let's watch the speed climb. 150, 155. Will he get to 160? 165 he'll top out at before jamming on those binders and slowing back down for Roller Coaster and Hogpen to end his qualifying lap. He has not laid down a time yet in this session. We'll see where he gets on the board.
Yeah, and 34 drivers have currently put down a time. Still rating on the last few too.
And here comes Swenson across the line. We'll see where he slots in. Looks like he is going to be...
I think...
no time scored for the 10 car. So it looks like he might have gone off track. Jonathan, you in the number 28. Sorry, go ahead there, Finney.
I think Swenson actually just went off in the final corner.
Oh, man, that is awful. That's the thing is... Also, Virginia International Raceway, very little runoff room here, Finian, and that makes it extremely challenging for these drivers. You can't drop a wheel, or you'll go for a wild ride. Let's take a look from up above here, Finian. Look at all that grass, especially down at Hogpen and just after Roller Coaster. There's a lot of areas to get yourself off track, and it's almost impossible to recover there. And we mentioned how poor the braking systems are on these cars. Well, imagine it if it's that bad on pavement. Imagine how it is once you're on grass. There's not a whole lot of grip there to save yourself if you go wide.
Yeah, we were talking about Swenson too, not putting on a time. He was 10th fastest in practice, so he's gonna be starting at least. Again, it depends now for the rest of the drivers who didn't put on a time. They'd be listed by their iRating. So he's starting at least no higher than 35th. So he's got a lot of traffic to work through.
We have one car on track at the moment with about 1 minute and 20 seconds left. It's Michael Peters in the number 32 car. And while we're talking about Michael Peters here, let's also take a note. If you guys look at the ticker on the left-hand side, occasionally you'll see a driver on the ticker flash on by. If they are just a R in parentheses, that is just because of a timing and scoring error that we have for this race due to some naming conventions that the league used for some driver designations. As you see that the 32 car go wide there. So those R drivers, we'll explain them to you if they have something to go on, but right now their car number is the only identifying factor we'll have on them at the moment. So 50 seconds left in qualifying, and DJ Alessandrini looking really hot there, 0.6 of a second ahead of Alex Barrasso.
Yeah, we've seen he worked miracles in the MX-5 category in the VMAR series. He won, I believe, every race in that category, if I'm not mistaken.
In the MX-5 category, he did win every race, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, so, and I mean, it really isn't too surprising that he's up front here, but I mean, by 0.6 of a second over the rest of the field, that's impressive.
Got a cool gyro camera on board, the number 32, as he comes around to take the green flag, and it looks like if he makes it to the line here, Finney, it's open qualifying, he should get an opportunity to complete this lap. And he'll be the last driver to have a chance to do so, unless Luke McGrew in the number 17 car gets an opportunity, and it looks like actually nobody's going to get an opportunity. Maybe it wasn't open qualifying. I guess I only saw one car at a time. All right, let's get gridded up and ready to go racing here, Finney. In 15 minutes, it'll take about 9 laps if it all goes to plan here, but I think plans can get thrown out the window if you're anywhere from about 15th on back. It's going to be a struggle to get by everybody here, Finney, and if you're back there. But you got to keep yourself safe and out of trouble. We know how tricky VIR can be, and this car especially is a huge challenge to these drivers. And there's Nation Schlawin in the number 5 car. He is going to be, looks like he's going to be starting kind of deep here, so be a little bit of a ride for him in 15 minutes. Take another look at our temperatures here with the dynamic weather and iRacing. A little bit unpredictable. 71 degrees track temp, up a couple from when we started here. Still going to be relatively grippy, but not a whole lot of wind and partly cloudy conditions, so it should be a pretty comfortable racetrack out there to drive. At least if we were driving cars that were a little bit more perfect and had traction control, but no such nannies on these things tonight. And the Track Midwest Cup Series about ready to go racing for the first of 4 rounds in the 2019 season.
Yeah, I mean, if you could look at the field, all of them gridded, it's an amazing sight seeing all the cars. Also, very stressful sight on computers. I'm currently have about 65 FPS on my computer.
Yeah, we're probably going to be starting with the blimp cam, I think, is how that's going to go. But look at all those cars. That is an absolutely astronomical field size. And you see there's... the other thing is that's going to be especially tricky for us tonight, Finian, is... We usually can tell drivers just by their liveries, but tonight, that's going to be pretty hard to do because there's, I can see about 5 red cars, 4 yellow cars, 8 white cars. I mean, all these cars are going to look so similar to us, especially when we don't have a name to tie to the faces just yet. But the field is almost ready to go racing here tonight. We have about 10 seconds left in the gridding process here. 1 pace lap around Virginia International Raceway, and we'll turn them loose for 15 minutes around this amazing racetrack. All right, so standing start. No pace lap.
Yep, standing start.
Thanks
They're
for
revving it already.
Green flag in the air, and we're off and ready to go for 15 minutes around VIR. We got already one off in the dirt trying to get around, but heading down to turn 1, it is just going to be chaos when we get there. But so far, so good. Don't see anybody off course just yet. What a phenomenal start by these guys here, Fane.
Yeah, almost no problems right now. On a few contacts, actually one driver in the grass, but other than that, everyone is still rolling away, and notably the guys up front have already gotten single file. DJ
Alessandrini in front of Alex Barroso in the number 39 car. He's trying to chase down that 31. We've seen how incredible he can be. And now the field works their way through the snake. See them coming up through right now. And this is not an area where you want to go side by side here, Finian. Up and over the curbs. These things are very light in the front end, but already getting themselves strung out. You got to find your pace in your own race here.
Crash by the bridge.
Big crash back there. Andrew Lanning involved in the number 7. And others, Lanning got a little bit of it, but Derek Yarbrough, Chris Boersma there, and trying to see who else was involved. Jason Powell. Let's quickly take a look at this because there's going to be too much action to spend too much time on this. And we got to go back a little bit further to find the origin of this. It was a couple cars got turned around in front of the field. That just kind of stacked everybody up. The 5 car got turned around, and the rest of the field just didn't have anywhere to go. But very minimal damage considering how far up the grid that pack was. Well, let's head back up front, and it looks like DJ Alessandrini still has the point as we complete the first of about 9 laps here tonight, but look who's coming up from behind. Alex in the number 39. He's right on his tail.
Yeah, and again, he's kept with him quite a bit, has only lost a little bit of distance, but we saw how much faster Alessandrini was to a lot of the rest of the field, so Barroso can stick in there. He should be able to challenge Alessandrini, but it's going to be a tall order.
And that has created a big gap between our leaders and the drivers at the tail end of the field. We got one off track. Ali Sali is way wide. I believe that's down in turn number 1, and indeed it is. Let's quickly take a look. And I believe this might have just been out-braking here as he got into the corner and just got on the brakes too hard and locked up the rears. And this is a brake bias issue here, Finney. Maybe a little bit too much rear brake cranked in for the number 110.
And unfortunate, too, because he's running pretty solid in 12, so he's going to lose a ton of time.
Eric Pennington in the number 26 car right now, running away from Danny Hagford, Brandon Abbott, and Nathan Bookbinder. And, the 15 car going for a spin. He'll hang on to it, though. That's Wes Malusik there in the number 15. He'll get it back on course. There's Michael Peters trying to get around him. Up through the snake he will go and get alongside. But meanwhile, back out front, Alessandrini stretched it now to 0.8 of a second. Ken Halseal rides in 3rd behind Barroso.
Yeah, Halseal getting around Darling on the start. Darling losing a position.
You see everyone really spread out now after that first lap carnage there. So looks like we have about 2 or 3 cars that are off in the pits and will probably be retired for the night. But the rest of the field here are up and kicking and sorted themselves out. But now it's a race. Looks like there's a couple position swaps going on back in 17th, 18th, and 19th. Olsen, Hodges, Swenson, and Yu.
Apparently the engine noise is a little bit too loud on the broadcast.
Thank you for letting me know. correct that and get that sorted out.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say is that Jeremy Swenson, who we were talking about, wasn't able to put a lap in. He started 35th. He's already up to 18th.
Yeah, we talked about him.
Some impressive work.
We talked about him during qualifying here, Finian, but unfortunately, he's still got a long way to go if he wants to get up to the leaders. 22 seconds and only 10 minutes to get there. So qualifying is very important, but he could possibly get himself into 10th. That's only about 11 seconds up the road. You see him now just get a little bit inside of the curb there, and he's going to lose a tiny bit of ground to Eric Kudel just up in front of him.
Ooh, spin in turn 1 with Jonathan Yu.
And he's going to go around, and he'll climb back onto the racetrack. He'll be in 32nd. Michael Peters, he might lose a couple more spots than this here. Battle for 6th right now, Finian. Thomas Foose and Rob Wilkinson, nose to tail. 37 is Wilkinson. Let's ride on board with him as he chases the 27 car.
And again, this is what we're talking about, heading up to the roller coaster. This is a very tricky passing section if you want to make it. And I mean, it's tricky in most other cars, but this especially, considering how much these guys are on the brakes and how squirrely this car is at top speed, it's going to be very difficult to make some moves here.
And into Hogpen here, Finney. This is a very technical part of the course as well, and this is probably the most dangerous area where you could get yourself off track. The curbs here are pretty narrow and don't give you a whole lot of room to play with, but he continues to chase down 6th place Thomas Foose. And also a battle going on, it looks like ultimately it'll be 2nd place here. Barroso and Hausil closing up, and Alessandrini has been reeled back in by these guys as well.
Yeah, indeed. I'm actually surprised that Alessandrini hasn't been able to stretch out his lead as much as I thought, but these guys it's going to be a three-way battle for first here in a lap or two.
The last time by, Hausil was 0.4 of a second quicker than Alessandrini, so look out for Hausil to be coming. Remember, this was also carried over from the Virtual Mars series a couple weeks ago. Hausil consistently was extremely fast, but always ended up having something go wrong, and ended up being beaten out by Alessandrini in every single race. There's a big fight going on back here. There's Dennis Barrett in the 83 muscling his way by Austin Barnes in the 18. Some door-to-door contact there, but they all get out okay. Back up front, Alessandrini trying to get away. You see some tire tracks being left by the 39 car on corner exit. And Paul Darling out wide at the exit of Oak Tree. He's going to lose about 3 or 4 spots here. That's a costly mistake onto the back straightaway.
Yeah, and he was running in 4th, doing a solid job, but he had lost pretty much 4 or 5 positions from that mistake alone. So he's going to be kicking himself for that.
Down into the roller coaster, you see some brakes locking up on the leaders right now. We mentioned how stressful the braking systems get with those steel brake discs in Finian. They're put under a lot of load at the end of the straightaway. Look at the 39 exploring every inch of the track limits. But behind Paul Darling, and looks like that's Kyle Herbst there. They're no strangers to each other from Virtual Mars. They're running pretty close nose to tail at the moment. Close racing all around. Here's a pass for, looks like it'll be 19th, Danny Hagford and Stephen Pruden going next to each other down the back straight. Upwards of 160 miles an hour here. And the 124 will complete that pass. The 24 will give it up.
And really, that's actually, you kind of it just takes a lot of give and take with these guys, because you don't want to both be going side by side through there.
And again, for 10th spot, Dennis Barrett and Austin Barnes. Remember, we saw some side-to-side contact the last time they came down through turn 1. Right now, still battling for that top 10th spot. And Finian, I think that 10th spot is probably one of the most hotly contested spots on the racetrack right now. You see Barrett run wide. He's going to get passed by the 18 of Austin Barnes. Everyone wants that 10th spot because you know where that's going to be for race number 2. That'll be pole position.
Yeah, indeed it will be. And Barrett is now lost that, so he would be starting 11th. If the race were to finish as they were now, but he's still right on the back bumper of Barnes, and definitely you can see it in his eyes almost that he wants that position.
Up through the snake and through the S's here. Up and over the curbs. We talked about how light the front ends of these cars are. You have to be careful that you don't get your bumper hooked around. But how about Thomas Foose and Paul Darling and this whole group of drivers, Wilkinson and the 20 of Kyle Herbst, all kind of in this battle as well on the long straightaway.
And Darling, trying to recover from that mistake he made earlier, was able to get around Herbst, but is now looking at Thomas and Rob ahead of him.
Closes in on Foose in the number 27 locks up a little bit of that right front tire, but obviously in a 15-minute race here, Finian, you have the luxury of not having to really care about your equipment and tires all that much. You can pretty much go all out and roast those tires without worrying about their long-term performance advantage, because you're really going to be done with this race in about 5 minutes time, so you might as well get them hot and use them while they're still fresh.
Speaking of hot on the brakes, Alex Barroso had to actually woe down a lot. He almost got into the back bumper. Alessandrini used that close.
Here's a replay of it. Getting down this, wow, almost rear ends Alessandrini there. Had it timed out pretty well, though, and managed to close about a 1/10.5. And up through the snake they go once again. Still stuck behind Alessandrini. The passing opportunities seem limited here tonight, Finian. Ali Sali around again. Is that turn 1 once again? Looks like it is, Finian. That's the second time he's gone off there, and I assume probably for the same issue with the braking. Might want to crank some front brake in there to stabilize that car onto the brakes. And just behind him, another fight going on. Eric Pennington and Philip Corsi in the number 8. These guys battling for 21st spot. How about we jump back up to the front, though, Finian? The leaders are still nose to tail. Pretty close quarters here for these guys as they work their way back into roller coaster turn number 13 and 14. And Barroso closes up again on the brakes. He seems a lot more efficient than Alessandrini in the braking zones here, Finian, but Alessandrini's getting the straight line out and seems to pull away once the throttle's back down.
Yeah, he actually locked it up heading into the roller coaster, so Alessandrini, ooh, he took a huge amount of curb there. But yeah, again, still surprised that, when someone actually spun out into the pits.
I'm trying to find out who that was.
There's a 23 Jason Morse.
Got a car going around. Stephen Pruden out of Oak Tree from 20th spot. He's going to lose about 5 or 6 spots here. It's going to take him a while to pull it back onto the course. Got to be careful here, Finney. You don't want to pull back into traffic. He'll get it pointed in the right direction. We'll take over the 23rd spot after losing a couple. Here's Rob Wilkinson and Paul Darling once again. We'll ride on board with Darling as he works his way through turns 3 and 4. And by a slow number 5 car, I believe that was. That's Nathan Schlauen, I believe.
Yep, that is. He lets him on by.
And Darling really just trying to size up Wilkinson right now, and this is a good place to do it. This is a rhythm section here, but already got a little bit off. You see some gravel hitting the camera there, got a little bit wide on the entrance, and that kind of messes up your rhythm through the whole rest of the section here, Finian. But he'll try to get himself lined straight through here and carry as much speed as possible.
Yeah, Darling has done a fantastic job after his spin in Oak Tree, trying to make up these spots, move himself from 8th back up into 6th. Is potentially going to get Wilkinson if he can keep it up, but he's slowly running out of time.
You see the 27 of Foose right behind him. He's got Kyle Herbst breathing down his neck through Oak Tree as well. And those 4 cars, the 37 of Wilkinson back to Herbst, still running in one of the tightest groups on the racetrack. How about back in 29th, Chris Boersma and Ido Waxman? They're battling for a spot down in turn number 1. The 34 looks like it's under contention there. A little bit of right rear damage to that blue and gray Porsche.
Oh, and actually, Auxilio's actually just made a quick pass, or tried to make a pass over Barroso for second.
I might have it here.
Again on the front straightaway.
Side by side down the front straightaway here, Finian. This is for second place. They have 1.3 seconds to make up if they want to chase down Alessandrini. They're going to have about 2 laps to do it side by side down into turn 1 on the brakes. Who's going to be the most efficient here? The 39 goes around the outside, carries some speed. Hausil can't quite complete that pass. He'll have to try it again. Maybe on the outside here. They're both sliding under power. Hausil tries the crossover down to turn number 3. Can't get it done. We'll have to try again through the S's.
Yeah, Barroso was sideways coming out of turn 1 trying to put the power down. Now, we talked about it earlier, no traction control in these cars, so it's just all really up to driver skill, and Barroso did a fantastic job.
Oh, we got one upside down there, Finian, and I didn't see who that was. Was that Powell, I believe? And I believe it was Jason Powell. I just have to find him here so I can grab the replay of that. Could you confirm for me that that was the 13 car up on its roof?
Yes, it was.
Let's go take a look at what caused that accident.
Oh, my.
And while I'm trying to grab... Oh, this is quite the accident here. Take a look at what happened. Was there a spun out car? It was the 30-something.
It was Idle Waxman.
Oh, Waxman. Wow, took flight there, and underneath goes somebody. Didn't see who that was, but they got a heck of a view underneath that car.
Yeah, they did.
We'll head back live.
That was Ryan Christoph.
DJ Alessandrini locks up tires, got some lap traffic that was slow just up the road, and he's going to have to negotiate some of this here, Finian. He's lost about 0.7 of a second to Barroso in this lap. Car goes wide. That's a lap car. And back onto the front straight. This will be white flag. One more lap around in race number 1 here tonight. Alessandrini has led every single lap. Can he lead one more? It gets a little bit of the grass there on the front straightaway. Barroso and Hausiel fighting behind.
Yeah, they actually got some lap traffic up ahead, so Alessandrini might have to end up navigating
some of Barroso's wide, out of control. Spins in turn number 1.
No.
And he's going to have to give up a couple more spots to Andrew Pelota as he goes by. And also, Rob Wilkinson runs wide contact with the lap car there. So drama for what driver was in second place. So Barroso goes from second to 4th. And Hausiel takes over second, but it's now 1.5 seconds up to Alessandrini.
Yeah, we just saw 2 drivers struggle through turn 1 on the final lap. That's how close it was for the racing. And we talked about earlier, just making these mistakes and you lose all that time.
There's the gap from the leader to second. There is Alessandrini hopping the curbs. Hausiel sliding the car, trying to make up any ground he can on Alessandrini, but it's going to be probably a little bit too late. He runs wide down at South Bend, up into Oak Tree, and that lost him a ton of ground here, Finney. This might be Alessandrini's to lose at this point. Meanwhile, battles going on for 6. Paul Darling, Thomas Foos, Kyle Herbst, all running nose to tail here. And around the track, there's lots of battles going on. We'll try to pick the best ones on this final lap.
Oh, interesting that Wilkinson actually got back around Darling, and actually Darling has a lot of nose damage.
Yeah, Darling definitely has hit somebody or something. So Wilkinson will take that 5th spot back. So who is sitting in the catbird seat right now for the start of race number 2? Bradley Adams in that Lightning McQueen colored car in 10th. That's where you want to be. And Austin Barnes in the number 18 also going to have a really good starting spot for race number 2 if he stays there. Out of the final corner for race number 1, from flag to flag, DJ Alessandrini wins at Virginia International Raceway. Ken Hausiel once again chasing the king of road courses and will come up just short in P2. Andrew Pelota, familiar face to us, in 3rd. Alex Barroso will come home in 4th place after losing out from 2nd on that last lap mistake down in turn number 1. Rob Wilkinson in a cannon-colored car will cross the line in 5th. Paul Darling, Thomas Foos, Kyle Herbst, Austin Barnes, and Bradley Adams are working their way out of the final corner. And it looks like Bradley Adams, if he can hang on from the 721 of James Park, it's going to be down to the wire coming to the line. And it looks like it will be Bradley Adams starting on pole for race number 2 here in just a couple minutes.
That's a big spot for him there. It was one position separating who's starting 1st and who's starting 11th.
And the rest of the field coming across the line and completing their laps. Couple cars limping home. William Griffin in the number 46, 2 laps down, not the race he wanted to have. And the rest of the field is going to complete their race and pull off. Andrew Lanning in the number 7. Remember, he got looped around in that lap 1 accident that took out so many other cars. This is going to be a disappointing race 1 finish for him. It will be officially 25th. And there's a couple other drivers that are just limping back to the start-finish line now here, Finney, but wow. Okay, first of all, there's a couple things we need to address. A record-breaking 42 people watching live at one time. That is a new record for SimTV, so I want to thank everybody for watching live. That is phenomenal. And I also want to thank these guys for putting on one heck of a show, but Finney, there's so much action, it's hard to keep up with it.
Yeah, I know. It really was. There were passes going on all over the track, people going off the track all over the track. Yeah, it was really hard to keep up with, but yeah, these guys put on a hell of a show. A lot of racing going on for the lead, mid-pack. It was absolutely amazing to watch.
All right, so you can see there is your finishing order as it scrolls across your screen. So in just a moment, we're going to take a break, and we're going to talk to Alessandrini, Hausiel, and a couple others when we return. And then we'll take another short break, get a drink of water, and take a deep breath. And because race 2, we're going to invert the top 10 drivers and go for another 15 minutes to conclude tonight's action from Virginia International Raceway. We'll be back with more in just a couple minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back live here to SimTV. We're here now with race winner DJ Alessandrini. And DJ, we've been saying that quite a bit the last couple months after sweeping every race in the Virtual Mars series in the MX5 category. You come here, first race out of the season, you take it, and it wasn't quite as easy this time. Had to battle off Alex and Ken there in the closing laps, but managed to steal one away. And first of all, congratulations, and second of all, what do you think about race number 2?
Race number 2 is going to be interesting just because my weakest parts of the track is, don't tell the other guys, but my weakest part of the track is coming out of Oak Tree, and that's like the best passing point of the track. So I'm really good in the S's and pretty good in the first section leaving turn 1. I think that's where I make most of my time on everybody, but the prime passing zones are the zones where they aren't my strongest in the track. So it's going to be difficult to get around people, but I'll just try to keep the nose clean and see how many positions I can grab.
All right. Well, obviously, you're going to be starting a little bit deeper in the pack. There was a big crash heading through. I believe it was the Snake the first time through. Are you worried a little bit about the first lap action getting in your way?
Yeah, a little bit. I was just worried about the cold tires, somebody sliding into me. But honestly, I couldn't. You can't worry about it too much because the car just requires so much from you. It's such a mentally taxing car because the thing just screams motor on every input. So I really just had to, even though I could see them back there, and I would glance at the relative every once in a while and see that no, I didn't lose them at all. They're still there. I just had to really focus hard and hit the marks just because the moment I don't do that is the moment I go spinning backwards in this weird backwards car.
All right, DJ. Well, good luck in race number 2, and we'll see you out there.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so next in the box is going to be Ken Houseal, another driver we're familiar with from Virtual Mars. Ken, just one spot short once again. I know it seems like it's a broken record from us, but a little bit closer that time, and without that mistake there on that last lap, you might have had a shot in the closing stages of that one. What would you do different for race number 2?
I'm not sure I would do too much different. I mean, the fact that we're going to a reverse grid, I'm not feeling too bad about it. I mean, obviously the mistake wasn't ideal, but it's okay.
All right, well, what about, I mean, a lot of the action on the racetrack happened behind you this lap, but now you're going to be thrust a little bit into the middle of it. Is there any part of the racetrack that you think is too difficult to pass in that might be a little bit chaotic on lap 1?
Probably the lower S's and then the upper S's on lap 1 is going to be pretty tricky. I mean, I expect the guys at the back of the top 10 to have pace over the guys in front. Maybe they were sandbagging, I'm not sure, but it's going to be intense.
All right, well, we'll let you get back to work. We'll see you in a little bit, Ken, and congrats on the P2.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so next in the booth is going to be...
Coming out of...
Oh, hey, Alex, how are you?
Oh, hey, not bad. How are you guys?
We're pretty good. First of all, I want to ask you, because, again, this is the first night we're doing this series, so we want to just ask for clarification on your last name pronunciation.
Yeah, I think I heard it in the stream there for a second, and it sounds like you guys got it perfect. It's just Barroso.
Oh, good. Okay, sweet. So far, so good with that. We haven't had anybody tell us otherwise yet. All right, Alex. Well, obviously, 4th place, not bad for race number 1, but you were second on the white flag lap, and a little bit of a mistake in turn 1 caught you off guard there. What would you do different for race number 2?
Pretty much all the same stuff. I feel like top 3 there, we had really equal pace. I thought DJ was going to pull away, but I was pretty happy. That was a super fun race. I kept pushing the brake bias back because it felt good, and I was still getting a little bit of front lockup. And that last lap, going up into roller coaster, I made a little mistake, and Ken got close. And then turn 1, I felt like I broke at the same point I had been all night, and rear just chattered a little bit, and it got away from me. So yeah, this car is really tricky driving it on the edge, and I think all of us were probably sweating for that short 15-minute race. So same thing, really, and hope for the best.
We were talking up here in the booth that a 15-minute race allows you to kind of abuse your tires and equipment a little bit, but obviously with a cool track, the margin for error with the speeds you're carrying is pretty low. I mean, what area of the racetrack do you think is probably the scariest at speed in the Porsche 911 Cup car?
Oak Tree right now, the braking zone into Oak Tree, basically just dragging the brakes all the way through it and hoping it rotates enough and doesn't end up going backwards. Because if you watch from the back of our cars, you'll see that most of us are probably carrying the brake all the way from the braking point to the apex of Oak Tree, and it's a pretty long turn. So yeah, that's one of the scariest for me. But just about everywhere under the brakes here is sketchy.
All right, Alex. Well, congrats on a P4 and good luck in race number 2, and keep yourself out of trouble.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
No problem. All right, we've got a couple more interviews to get through here before we head on to race number 2. The next will be Andrew Pelota, a driver we're familiar with from Virtual Mars. Actually won the championship in the Mustang category of that series. But Andrew, a great first race for you. Podium so far. What do you think for race number 2?
Basically, I'm just gonna try to make my car wide and see what I can get out of it. Really, really, just my goal is to survive. So as long as I'm doing that, I'm pretty happy.
All right. Obviously, going to be have a pretty good starting spot for race number 2. Are you worried anywhere about any specific corner on lap number 1? I was talking to DJ about what area he thought was a little bit sketchy. Maybe the S's through lap number 1?
Absolutely, the S's, especially like if we start to creep up on each other and people are sticking their noses in. I think it's going to be real tight up through there, and especially through left hook and snake as well. So it'll be exciting start for sure.
All right, well, we'll let you get back to work and get back into the session, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, thanks.
All right, now Thomas Foose, driver of the number 27 car. Thomas, an exciting race for sure. A P7, not bad for the first race. What do you expect for race number 2?
Well, with the flipped grid, it could be interesting. I know some of the leaders are pretty fast, so I'll just have to make sure I don't get in their way. But yeah, the kind of 7th through 9th, there was a little pack of cars that stayed pretty tight and had some really good clean racing.
We were talking earlier about the dynamics of the Porsche 911 Cup car and the fact that it's so light in the nose. Do you feel that lightness is a little bit tricky over the tall curbing here at VIR? Does it drag the nose around a little bit?
Yeah, it's certainly a tough track. You gotta kind of hang it out there if you want to be quick, and it's definitely risk reward. If you go too far, you're in the grass, and then you're 100 yards off the track. So yeah, it's definitely got to play with the brakes and be careful with the throttle, and certainly needs to be careful to make a safe lap around here.
All right, Thomas, good luck in race number 2, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
All right, I believe that will conclude our interviews here for race number 1, Finney, and obviously a chaotic first race, but I don't think we're done just yet. Race 2 is bound to be just as exciting.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it, especially with that inversion of the top 10. You're going to have Allison Drini starting in 10th, and he's going to have to climb his way up back to 1st. It's going to be fun to watch these drivers navigate through the field.
All right, well, we're going to load in for race number 2. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. As soon as we are loaded back in, we'll be back online, so stay with us, and we will be back as soon as we can be. Welcome back live here to Sim TV. We're about ready to go rolling here. Not a whole lot of downtime. We're about to get right into it for race number 2. 15 minutes of racing action once again. The top 10 have been inverted, so race winner DJ Alessandrini will be starting from 10th. Everyone else, as they finished. Lights are on, and we're waiting for the green flag, and there it is. Green flag in the air. We're off again for 15 more minutes of Porsche Cup Series action from the 2019 Track Midwest Cup Series. Down to turn number 1. Chaos already.
Austin Barnes got a fantastic start on the outside, and he might be able to take the lead here.
He's really pushing in that number 10 car here, Finian, around the outside. Remember how important 10th place was, Finian? We talked about it in race number 1. To the inside he goes. Austin Barnes to the lead. The 12 car gets turned, and around he goes. The 4 of, looks like that is Eric. Is that Kyle Herbst in the 4? It's Herbst.
Kyle Herbst.
Another driver collected there as well. Huge damage to the number 12 of Bradley Adams. But the rest of the field looks like they get through relatively unscathed, but Barnes was 10th in race number 1, got that lead, and he is running away with it right now. Paul Darling sitting in a good place right now, and the rest of the field heading up through the S's.
And we saw that Darling had a lot of pace. He only made that 1 minute. He was running in 4th earlier on in the race, made a mistake in race number 1 that put him back a few spots. But here he is with a chance to redeem himself, and he's wasting no time. But however, he's got Alex Barroso right behind.
And nose to tail, look at this lead group here, Finian. Austin Barnes, Paul Darling, Alex Barroso, Ken Hausiel, nose to tail. And look at this battle behind, the 30 of Tom Foose and Andrew Pelota side by side. And Alessandrini hungry behind, still sitting. Actually, he'll be in, I believe, 6th place at the end of the lap because the cars that return to the pits, Pennington, Lanning, Boersma, are scored in front of the leaders right now, but obviously they're in pit road. So Foose trying to hang on. Oh, looks like we got a couple cars off track. Darling again goes wide. Barnes goes wide as well. Barroso takes the lead away. Ken Hausiel takes over 2nd.
And I was looking at that, it looked like Barnes, he took a lot of curbing and knocked into Darling, sending Darling off track, and Darling's actually making a way to his... Oh, I thought he was going to go through pit road, but he's going to still lose a lot of time.
Absolute chaos down the front straight here. Look at this big pack. Look at Alessandrini right in the middle of it here, Finian. Jeremy Swenson as well. We got a couple more cars going wide, and so does James Tack there in the number 720. Actually, he makes it through. It's Swenson that went around, I believe.
No, it was Thomas Foose.
Ah, Foose was the one. I'm trying to see all the... There's so many cars going through that corner at one time. Look at this battle. Look at the 12 car. Bradley Adams trying to recover from that turn 3 incident on lap number 1. And he spins the 31. Of course he goes around. They're going to try to collect themselves. Chaos in the rear of the field. We got another one way off track. It's Ryan Kristoff in the 46. He'll have to rejoin. Up front, Barroso and Hausiel separated by just 0.2 of a second. They're trying to run away from the rest of the field. Austin Barnes, 1.6 seconds behind the front duo.
Yeah, with that contact with Darling, that also made Barnes lose a lot of time, and that allowed Barroso and Hausiel to get through. And they're taking every single advantage of it, trying to break away from the rest of the field. It might come down to these two guys at the end of this race. And I mean, we're already a decent amount of the way through this race already.
Not a ton of draft available in these Porsche 911 Cup cars, but Hausiel's going to try to use every little bit that he can. He's going to close right up on the rear wing, look to the inside, get out of the mirror of Barroso down into the roller coaster. Up and over the curbs, Hausiel's trying to hook those. Behind them, there's Alessandrini already up to 5th from his 10th starting spot. James Tack, Paul Darling. Darling has fallen back to 8th. Doug Metzel, we haven't talked about him yet tonight in the 63 Falcon car. Ido Waxman, another big spill up on the back straightaway here, Finian. Waxman again involved. So let's take a look at this one. Look at the replay. Oh, the 31 car got split 3 wide, and Waxman gets in to the 31, and they all just kind of spin around the rest of the field behind them, trying to scatter to miss it. 22 car going wide. That was, I believe, Wes Malusek. Man, it is hard to keep up with everything right now. Austin Barnes, 3rd. Remember, he started this race on pole, made a mistake. Barroso and Hausiel were able to get by, but now he's got Pelota and Alessandrini, 2 of the fastest cars in the field, right on his rear wing, heading up to the S's. Alessandrini clips the grass through the snake.
Yeah, they actually had to back off there. He was so close. to Pelota, and he lost a lot of time through the snakes. He's going to have to make that back up. But yeah, a lot of drivers making a lot of mistakes. Actually, speaking of mistakes, Barn just locked up a lot of heading into Oak Tree.
Oh, we got one off, I believe. Eric Kudel in the number 82. Paul Darling just scraped by there. But for the lead, still nose to tail with the top two here, Finian. I don't think this race is over just yet. Barroso not able to run away from a charging Ken Hausiel.
No, we saw that Hausiel had a lot of pace in the last race. I mean, he did finish ahead of Barroso last time through, but that was only after Barroso made a mistake into turn one. So if Barroso can keep a clean race going, he might have something for Hausiel. Maybe he might even be able to take away a win.
Pelota on Alessandrini, nose to tail. Alessandrini's off the track, Finian wide out of the final corner, turn 17. He's in the grass trying to regain control. He finally does, but will maintain his 5th place position. You see just behind Paul Darling, Eric Kutil, James Tack, Jeremy Swenson, Doug Metzel, Christopher Potter, all in the top 11 at the moment. See smoke from some locked up tires here, but that's a common occurrence with the Porsche 911 Cup car. And with the sun setting here, Finney, you see Doug Metzel go wide in the 63. The track temp has dropped about 5 degrees from the end of session number 1. And that has brought the grip levels up, and the lap times have followed. But up front, still, Barroso and Hausiel, the talk of the show. Austin Barnes now 4.6 seconds behind, but Pelota and Alessandrini, oh, this is chaos here, Finian. Almost 3 wide for a moment. Barnes and Alessandrini and Pelota side by side, and it looks like
Pelota off the track.
Pelota wide, Alessandrini to the inside, trying to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and Alessandrini really just couldn't get through these guys because every time he had an opportunity, they were usually side by side, but Alessandrini now moves himself up into 4th place. And is now going to try to check down Austin Barnes ahead for 3rd.
Swenson got spun around and got into another car there, but minimal damage to the number 5. So he'll continue. Right now, there's lots of battling going on for 3rd place at the moment. Barnes trying to hang on to it. Alessandrini and Pelota behind. Oh, big loose moment out of turn 17 for the number 10 car. Will Alessandrini look for a pass?
Oh, he's already looking. He's trying to find a way to make the pass.
Side by side.
Oh, ooh, Barnes squirrely on the brakes.
Pelota to the inside, trying to take advantage of it. Sticks the nose in, won't be able to complete the pass, though. Already halfway through this race. Sorry to cut you off there, Finney. Go ahead.
And Alessandrini, he's going to have to wait about half a lap to try to make a pass here because this is really not a good opportunity to make a pass here. You see it's so tight, sticks his nose.
Wes Maliasek off track again here, Finian. That will look like it'll be the end of his night, but we'll keep the eye on the 3rd place battle at the moment. You see headlights flashing from the number 17 of Alessandrini, trying to get around, trying to be a distraction to Austin Barnes, but will Barnes fall for it up through the S's, nose to tail, and Alessandrini can't see anything out of that cockpit windshield right now, and that's a dangerous place to be sightless, Finian. Very, very wide. Oh, out of the... Oh, man, this is chaos. Now down into Oak Tree. Will Alessandrini make a move here? Will he cross him over?
And no, just not able to do so. And Barnes did some great defensive driving there, just driving in the middle of the track. And this is a pretty narrow racetrack here. So by driving in the middle, you can really block off both lanes on the left and right side of the car.
Look who's coming up from behind. Paul Darling in 6th place right now, closing in on this group in front of him. Side by side now, Barnes and Alessandrini. Alessandrini will complete the pass. Will he get it slowed down in time, sliding through roller coaster? Manages to hang on, puts Barnes back to 4th, but now he's under attack from Andrew Pelota from behind.
Yeah, while these guys have been battling, it's allowed Paul Darling to get back into the fight, and he's actually catching in on Andrew Pelota for 5th.
There's a battle back here for 20th place right now. Finian Andrew Abbott and Dennis Barrett side by side down into, I believe this will be, yep, this will be roller coaster here. And Barrett in the number 83 orange car. Oh, he slips off track, Finian. He's wide and gets in to, is that Abbott? No, that's
Corsi
there.
31.
Yep, that's correct. little bit of an opportunistic move there for the 83. Misses braking point by just enough to cause some damage there to the number 31.
Yeah, I was already going to say that Barrett already has some damage to his wing. And that's not helping the stability on that car.
Austin Barnes trying to hang on to 4th place right now. Pelota's charging hard, and Paul Darling back into the mix as well. Let's ride on board with Darling through the S's. Up and over the curbs here, Finney. This is a delicate dance of car balance and throttle control. See Barnes struggling off track wide there, kicks up some dust and dirt.
And he's holding up Pelota, which has allowed Darling to get right on the back bumper of Pelota. So Darling is there now, might be able to draft to make a pass.
The 82 car is there as well, ready to pounce. Oh, battle for the lead here, Finney, and Halcyon to the inside of Barroso, down into Roller Coaster. Can Halcyon make it stick? And he does, goes around the outside, he slides wide. Here comes Barroso back. That was Barroso that was slipped wide. Halcyon takes the lead. So Barroso makes
it was almost similar to what happened to Alessandrini, but Alessandrini was able to slow it down enough. Barroso not so much, and he's going to lose a ton of time, and that just might have given Halcyon the race.
Yeah, big slip up there for Barroso.
Ooh, but battle for 4th, you're steaming up. Pelota looking to make a pass on Barnes.
It's a tricky spot to make it on the outside, the next couple corners. Oh. Pelota trying to do something with it, but look at Paul Darling becoming the buzzing bee in his ear to the inside now. That's got to be an annoyance for Pelota trying to get around Austin Barnes, but now he's got to fight off the 155 of Darling. Darling backs out of it, gets in line, and heads towards turn 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, we got 3 minutes left in this race, so it's coming down to the nitty-gritty.
Are these races 5 minutes or 15? They feel like 5. Up through the S's one more time here. Oh, we got one wide. It's Barnes fitting out wide off the racetrack, spinning. He'll get it straightened back out, but he's going to lose several spots here. Gets right on track behind Eric Kudel there in the number 82. And we'll go from 4th to 7th with that slip up.
Oh, and yeah, it was because he went off one of the corners in the snake. He missed his turn-in, and that messed up the rhythm through the rest of the section. That's how he lost all that time. Okay,
well, we got about 2 laps to go here, and it's about time to take a breath because the closest battle on the racetrack is this one right here for 19th between Andrew Abbott and Ido Waxman. And they're going to try to go side-by-side through the S's here, Fiddy, and that's not a great idea. And
looks not. They see Abbott letting him lie.
Yeah, Abbott will make that move and let the 13 car go. A smart move there for sure. All right, now we can take a deep breath. We only have 2 minutes left here, Finian, but Pelota and Paul Darling are the only ones fighting for a spot real close at the moment. That's a lie. We got a crash. Jason Powell around. Andrew Abbott also involved.
Oh, Pelota and Darling side by side in turn 1. Pelota going through the grass.
Paul Darling back around to the inside will take that spot away, so move Darling to 4th.
Yeah, and Pelota with a big slip up under braking.
Let's go take a look at that real quick. Oh, wow, yeah, a little bit too much rear brake, a little bit too much brake application, goes wide, gets into the grass, and allows the 155 to head on through. Not a mistake you see Pelota make a lot, and one of the reasons I think, Finian, is Pelota, coming from the Mustang category in Virtual Mars, those brakes, you can lean on those things all day with ABS, and the front engine leaves a lot of stability, but these cars very unstable on the brakes and a totally different beast. The Abbotts, Brandon and Andrew, fighting for 22nd right now. And the 27 car gets into the grass on the front straight. Oh, that's Jason Powell just up the road, leaving a big trail of smoke. Battle for 4th heating up again. Pelota not giving up this spot just yet.
Will he be close enough to make a move here? We'll see. Does he look? No. Looks like he's going to settle in.
Oh, man. Almost looked from my angle like he was going to go for it, but settled in. Maybe he'll have one more lap, one more opportunity to make a pass here. Ken Hausil up the road is going to come and collect the white flag. One more lap around, some lap traffic up the road, but 1.3 seconds back to Barroso, who was quicker last time through. by about a half a second, but that's not going to be enough as we continue to watch the battle for fourth.
Yeah, Halcyon's got a lot more breathing room than Darling does at the moment.
And Pelota's going to have to be very precise. A lot more conservative into the braking zone in turn 1 now. Through turn 3. Now really, you got to be within about 2/10 on the back straight to have an opportunity to pass down into Roller Coaster. So we'll keep an eye on Pelota to see if they can close that gap. Meanwhile, Ken Hauseal, after taking advantage of the simple mistake by Barroso early in the race, has managed to hang on to the lead and not make any more mistakes. Is out up front and might finally collect the checkered flag under SimTV's eyes. Barroso now 1.8 back, must have made a mistake here.
Yeah, he got caught up by lap traffic in the snake.
And we'll accelerate back onto the back straightaway for one final time. Meanwhile, Darling and Pelota still nose to tail here, but 0.6 of a second. Going to be a little bit too much, I think, for Pelota to get there. But of course, nothing's impossible. Will Darling make a mistake into Roller Coaster or Hog Pen and give it away?
There's definitely a chance.
We'll keep an eye on it as Ken Hauseal rounds turn 17, and he will pick up a checkered flag for the first time this season in race number 2. Ken Hauseal, driving the number 16 Brumos Porsche 991, will cross the start-finish line first. Alex Barroso misses out once again in second place this time. DJ Alessandrini fights from 10th to 3rd and will come home P3. Paul Darling and Pelota with some lap traffic in between. Darling will take 4th, Pelota 5th. Eric Kudel in number 82 in 6th. Austin Barnes slips from pole back to 7th. Christopher Potter in 8th. He started in 16th, up 8 spots for him. Rob Wilkinson started 6th, fell to 10th. Derek Yarbrough coming through the line in 11th. Thomas Foose from 4th to 13th. A little bit of a disappointing finish for that number 30 car. It looks like he'll officially be scored in 12th.
And Bradley Adams started on pole. He just came across the line in 14th, so I think he's going to probably be a little bit disappointed in that.
Stephen Pruden also coming across the line 20th to 16th. Dennis Barrett coming across the line 14th and 19th. Got to be disappointed in that. Also, that crash back there heading into Roller Coaster, not what he wanted to end his night.
Yeah, and I kind of actually just want to list off a little fun thing. Just looking at the starting positions of the top 10, I'm going to read them out in order. It's really crazy how jumbled up this all is. So starting with Hauseal, so 9th, 7th, 10th, 5th, 8th, 12th, 2nd, 16th, 11th, and 6th.
Wow.
So there's a bunch of movement in the top 10.
Oh, we saw it all right. We saw a lot of movement. But Ken Hauseal finally breaks through and gets a victory here in the Track Midwest Cup Series in race number 2 of round 1. Obviously, it's been a long time coming for Ken from the Virtual Mars Series, but he'll collect a checkered flag, and we'll be talking to him in just a couple minutes and a couple others. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back live here to SimTV. We're here with race number 2 winner, Ken House-Seal. Ken, first of all, congrats on finally getting a race here on SimTV. It's been a long time coming for you, but you brought that number 16 Brumos Porsche to victory lane here tonight. But it wasn't without a little bit of a fight there with Alex Barroso, but obviously doing burnouts with him at the end there, celebrating the victory. Walk us through that race.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Right from the start, it was just knew how to be aggressive, but keep it under control. And Alex and I both got through the field clean and raced real hard. That was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And, I guess just eventually pressured Alex into a mistake, so that was nice to finally get a win.
Absolutely. With the chaos out here tonight, obviously the lap traffic played a little bit of a factor in the later stages. So far, how do you feel like the lap traffic interaction is? Even though it's a pretty big track and you didn't see a lot of it today, with such a big grid, it had to be a little bit of an issue.
I was surprised. It was actually not as much of an issue as I expected, because I mean we had 42 cars or something like that, and it just went so well. Everybody got out of the way, and it was just pretty smooth. So,
all right, Ken. Well, congratulations on that race win, and we'll talk to you next week. What a phenomenal race for Ken House-Seal and that number 16 car.
Thanks, guys. See you.
No problem. All right, let's talk to Alex Barroso once again. Alex, maybe you got to be a little bit disappointed this time. Almost had it once again, but a little bit of a mistake that you got pressured into, slipped out of your hands again, but came up one spot short. Walk us through that race.
I'm not too upset with that at all. I had a lot of fun. Ken, I've not really raced with Ken much, but he's super clean, but still makes it interesting. So he really didn't have to pressure me there, but he did, and he gave me plenty of room. And I cleared him, and then I went for a little bit more brake, and the rear snapped on me. So yeah, it is what it is, though. I was super happy with that. Had a lot of fun, and hope to do it again soon.
Excellent. We saw a lot of issues probably throughout the field with a lot of drivers losing control under braking. Now, generally the response to that is to crank some more front brake in it, but behind the wheel of your car, Alex, do you prefer to just adjust your driving style or to adjust the brake bias to help a little bit?
I definitely put some brake bias towards the back as the race goes on. These races aren't very long, but the fuel burns off the nose of the car, so usually you send it to the back, and then as the track changes too, like first few laps, it took me a few laps to get adjusted or really think about adjusting because there was a decent bit of cloud cover. So the track was really gripped up and felt really good under braking. And then as the tires start to wear and the fuel burns off, braking definitely gets sketchier and the track got hotter. So it's kind of cool to see that the track changed as much as it did throughout the race there.
All right, Alex. Obviously, yeah, you mentioned a little bit cooler for race number 2, a little bit more grip out there. Alex, congrats on another great finish for you, and we'll see you next week.
Appreciate it, guys. You did a great job.
Thank you very much. All right, next driver we're going to talk to, I believe, is going to be Austin Barnes, driving the number 10 car. Austin had a good start to the race so far, but coming home P7, not a bad race for you at all, but maybe you wanted a couple more spots. Walk us through your race.
Yeah, had a really good start. I was able to get by Brad there in 1 and 2, and then sound like chaos from behind. I just knew everybody behind me was going to be so much faster than I was, so really just trying to hold them off. I held off DJ for a while, held off that pack for a while, and just had a bobble going up through the S's and went off, and just from there, knew 8th was so far back, just cruised back in 7th.
Obviously, a lot of cars out on track tonight made for a little bit of a chaotic event, but as we head to some other tracks in the future, I know we only have 3 weeks left of this, so a pretty short season. What track of the 3 left between Sebring, Sonoma, and Montreal are you the most excited for?
Probably Sonoma. That's really the only track of the other 3 we have left that I've ever ran laps at before. I mean, before tonight, I ran 10 laps on this track and 10 laps in this car, so it's kind of going in, with not much to go off of, but at least, happy with my performance, and, 2 top 10s, I'll take that.
All right, awesome. Well, first of all, we want to congratulate you on those 2 top 10s. We wish you luck next week.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for all the coverage.
No problem. We'll see you. All right, we've got one more to go through, I believe, and that will be Rob Wilkinson, driving the number 37 Porsche tonight. Rob, a top 10 for you. And a great way to finish off race number 2. A little bit of chaos out there and some carnage as well, but you managed to salvage a top 10 out of it and walk us through your race.
Yeah, I didn't have the greatest race. I ended up sort of pushing myself wide off a track twice on the first lap, I think. So I went from, I don't know what, 5th or 6th or something to nearly the back of the pack.
Well, starting back in, I believe it was 6th place that you started, and you slipped back a little bit, but you managed to come home in 10th. Walk us through Virginia International Raceway and how tricky it is to get past people, because we saw passing was a little bit tricky, and there's really only a couple spots in the track you can make it work.
Yeah, and that, you know, that works both ways too. If you can make yourself pretty wide and you can get through Hogpren quickly and you can get through Oak Tree quickly, it makes it really difficult. There's not much else you can do.
All right, Rob, we want to congratulate you on a nice solid top 10. Maybe not what you wanted, but it was certainly a good race for you, and we wish you luck next week.
Thank you, guys.
No problem. All right, Fane, well, now we can take a deep breath and get a drink of water. Man, what a race. I will just say right out of the gate that this is some of the most intense stuff that we've ever had on Sim TV here in about the 11 months we've been doing this here. But what stuck out to me tonight, Fane, was Alessandrini is just back to his typical self, running incredible laps, not only in the MX-5, but also in the Porsche Cup car, and Ken Hausil is right with him.
Yeah, definitely, indeed, and I think it's gonna come down for the championship. I think it's gonna come down between these two guys, as it did in the Mazda category and V-Mars, and I mean they're just both really the class of the field. And we've seen that here tonight, and I mean again, only short season, only 3 races left, of which we head to Sonoma next week, so that's gonna be a fun race to look forward to.
And a couple drivers I'm a little bit surprised about. Kyle Herbst in the number 4 was right up there with Pelota and a lot of other Mustang drivers in Virtual Mars. Had 2 pretty disappointing races tonight in the Porsche, so hopefully he'll have some better luck next week. Some bad luck, obviously, to some other drivers tonight. Jeremy Swenson, I think, got caught up in a couple accidents that weren't of his doing. I think, what driver was on the roof in race number 1? I'm trying to remember what driver that was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's been so long.
The 15?
Might have been the 15 car, but there was a car on its roof earlier, so a lot of bad luck out here, but for the most part, Finian, phenomenal driving. I mean, when you put 40 of any car on any track, it's going to be carnage, and the fact that we managed to limit that to really only a couple major wrecks is amazing, and really, there's only, in race number 2, 3 retirements? That's pretty phenomenal here, Finian, as we see a replay of Jeremy Swenson going for a loop here. So 3 retirements in a 15-minute race with 31 cars at VIR, I think, is a pretty incredible accomplishment.
Yeah, and I mean, really, these guys were going full peg for all those 15 minutes, and I think that's probably why we saw some of the mistakes we did, because this is a very hard car to drive on edge, and driving on edge for 15 minutes without making a mistake is pretty, for a lot of these guys, is pretty impressive. And I mean, really, it's such a fine line with this car. It's easy to see how these guys make that. So unfortunately, some guys got sent really far to the back after making some errors and weren't able to recover, but hopefully they can do better next week.
All right, so next week we head to Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California, a track that is probably just as technical, but a lot shorter, and the lap times will be much quicker there, Finian. So when we look at head to Sonoma, obviously a little bit different in terms of its layout. I think there's a little bit more elevation change, and also the curbing there, Finian. Sonoma, well known for having pretty violent curbing. So what do you expect out of next week?
A lot of chaos and I think a lot of passing maneuvers. There are a lot of slow corners where these guys can really get on the binders and maybe try to make a last second pass, especially towards the end of the race.
All right, so that'll be the first broadcast here for the 2019 Track Midwest Cup Series. Again, first race with all these new names. So again, if your name was mispronounced at all in this broadcast, just send us a message via Discord, YouTube, or through our email at simtvbroadcasting@gmail.com, and we'll try to get that fixed up for next week. But thank you everyone for watching. We definitely hit a new SimTV record, 44 live viewers at one point, 41 hours of view time by all you folks back at home. So thank you very much for that. And we look forward to next week's race next Tuesday, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from Sonoma, California. We'll see you later. Have a great night.